Being held upside down by Stony, our animal equipment shop manager, and we're going to do is zoom in the platform. The electronic release platform with the solenoid on it has already been installed. Make sure that you match up the numbers, okay, that you do not put the release mechanism on the wrong side. These are fully tested before they leave the factory, but make sure that you tighten up the two screws on the base and slide the tab into the release block. Make sure that that tab is perfectly easily slid back and forth. There should be no binding whatsoever. If necessary, you can take the bolts that hold the solenoid, okay, to the top side of the platform. It's upside down here at this position. Stony, flip it up the other way, and so we can see it. Yeah, you can see that it's inserted into the tab. Oops. And you can see that it's inserted into the tab, and that it is moving perfectly easily back and forth. You can. Okay, excellent. Sticking out towards us, of course, are the lofting pins. Okay. Okay, at this point, Stony's going to Okay, you see Stony rotating the transverse platform into place. There's only one way that you can rotate that and get an alignment on the bolts. If you ever fully disassemble it, make sure that you look very carefully at the numbers that are stamped into the platform. This platform is at the very tip. There's an eye bolt to which the outrigger cable is attached. You hand thread them in. Sometimes you have to wiggle it back and forth, but you put the two 5/16" bolts in, and then using the hex key snug them on down. The hex key that you'll be using for this, so this is the 7/32" hex key. You're doing this all the time. You can, of course, get a bit from either a power screwdriver or a ratchet wrench. You need to lean out, and so that I can see the eye bolt on the end. No, Okay, at this point we're going to extend the inner pole. There is a band of yellow tape, okay? If you can see the yellow tape, it's out too far. You need to push it back in so the yellow tape is inside the collet. In fact, you need to push it back about an inch inside the collet. And then tighten up the collet very snug. This is a graphite pole. It's exceptionally strong, exceptionally light, but if you step on it or sharply hit something on it, you can in fact crush it, and it's fairly expensive to replace. Okay, we're now going to take the pole and set the tip of the pole, okay, at the front edge of the net, right there. It's usually indicated by a loop in the edge. And we're going to drag the edge of the net on over to the tip of the pole, and that'll be its temporary place. We're going to be attaching this thing shortly with a piece of an electrical tie wrap system, but right now we're going to go back to the main part of the net pivot pole assembly, and we're going to actually attach the system to the ground. It's very important that you attach the system very solidly to the ground. You have about 3 or 4 different types of anchors in your kit. We're going to be demonstrating the leeway anchor system at this point, which is the probably the most tenacious, okay, method of gripping the ground. Sometimes if the ground's too hard, you can't drive it in. You may have to use one of the pins or the twizzle pegs, which are the orange pegs. Okay, the leeway anchor is what we're going to use at this point. If you want to protect the finish on the platform, okay, you can use a piece of cardboard underneath it, but you bend the wings back, okay, and then take and push the leeway into the ground. And sometimes the ground's hard, sometimes it's soft, but the point is that you can use your mallet to drive it in, okay, until it's flush with the ground. Okay, and now you're going to take and rotate the wings on it over, and those again can be driven in with the mallet. It is very important, if you're going to be using this on a surface that you cannot get an attachment to, what you're going to have to do is probably attach the platform to a piece of plywood and then put concrete blocks or something on the plywood. The more firmly the net is attached to the ground, okay, the faster the net will close. Is it binding?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a stone or a rock or something? Or why don't we get a small block of plastic, piece of Delrin, about some 1 inch thick.
1 inch thick?
Yeah. Inch, inch and a half, whatever we got there. Bring a couple of them. It's got the motor running on. You didn't know you were going to be an actor today, did you?
No, my hair is not perfect, neither.
Why don't you go over and do the other one, assemble that other one, okay. And get it ready to go while we're waiting for this.
The other thing is, do you have...
Okay, he slipped a block underneath the back, and now you can see that is moving perfectly smooth, easy, and the rubber bellows diaphragm is okay, returning the thing to position. Nevertheless, make sure that you always manually make sure that it's fully forward, okay, before attempting to cock or arm the pole. At this point, he's going to attach one of the receiver release units. At this point, he's just opened up the receiver release box, okay, flipped the power switch on. He's taken out the antenna, screwed it into the top. There are various kinds of antennas that we've used over the years. This happens to be a small metal whip antenna. Gets out the radio release unit, okay, and is going to snap the box back. I can't urge you too much to make sure the batteries are fully charged. If you let this thing sit in standby with the antenna, with the power on to the receiver release, I should say the receiver portion of the release unit, it will run the batteries down. You may not have enough power to properly trip the solenoid. Okay, it's now turned on, okay, and we're going to go over here and we'll move in on the solenoid. And he's going to hit the radio release, and you can see it clearly pulled in. Okay, we've tested it. It moves cleanly and easily. Okay, and we're now set as far as the platform assembly is concerned. We now only have to attach the net, okay, to the front end of the pivot pole, and that's going to take a couple of electrical tie wraps. We're going to move back here, and we're going to start usually with the one right here on the tip. I think you better step. We got a deep shadow on that stone. You can move around to your right. Okay, we're out of the shadow now. You take the electrical tie wrap, feed it through the corner marker on the edge of the net, and pull it through the other hole, okay, at the tip, solidly attaching that. Those are considered disposable, okay. When you're done, you cut them off, throw them away. And then you're going to go back, okay, to just below the collet, okay, just below the collet. You're going to take the second electrical tie wrap, and you're going to go through the edge of the net, okay, making sure that you only have, okay, the outer cord, okay, that goes around it. This is a low stretch Dacron cord, and put the second one through and snug it on down, okay. Lastly, we're going to go on back to the back edge of the net, okay, snug it on down out tight. And we're going to take a large peg, okay, one of the heavy-duty pegs, and drive it in the ground at the back edge of the net. Okay. Net's stretched out to full dimensions now. Should be 16 feet from front to back. The reason you're putting this peg in is that you don't want the back edge of the net to lift up. After it's closed, this will keep the animals trapped underneath the net. You can, depending upon the softness of the ground, okay, use additional pegs around the back periphery of the net. However, be absolutely certain that you do not involve any of the other portions of the net, the actual mesh portion of the net. Okay, he's over on the left-hand side and at this point, okay, and we're going to be just basically repeating the same assembly instructions on the left-hand side. Once again, be absolutely certain that that pivot pole swings the only way it can swing. When you're putting those bolts in from the top, it has to swing out at right angles to the longitudinal pole, pacing away from the body of the net. Same thing with the solenoid. If you ever decide to go to a manual trip for one reason or another, you have to remove, okay, the both male and female portions of the release mechanism and rotate them 180 degrees. And then so that you can pull from one direction and release with a manual pull both sides of the net. If you're going to be using the net quite a bit in one area, okay, you may find that you can leave the transverse bars in their proper position and the solenoid assembly attached and just transport it, you know, in the back of a vehicle, basically fully assembled. At that point, you can usually effect a setup in about 15 minutes or less. If you are however going to carry it back in its double rifle case, you must fully, of course, collapse and always collapse the graphite poles anyway to protect them. But you'll have to take off the solenoid platform, leave the solenoid attached to the platform, just pull the two bolts from underneath, pull the two top bolts on the pivot that pivots the transverse bar, and pivot it back underneath and snug up your pivot bolt, and you can then fit it back into the travel case. We've, in more recent systems, we are actually packing the radio receiver release in the net box. Okay, it's a little snug with the new platforms in the transverse box. Okay, and there he is, getting rid, sliding out. See the yellow? Back in an inch inside before you tighten the collet. If you tighten that collet on top of the tape, odds are it's going to slip and give you problems. You want it to collet to tighten down really snug on the graphite pole itself. Okay, and here he is, fitting the pole to the net. He's going to put in the back, putting in the back leeway. Not hammering this one down quite as tight. Okay, he's going to put in the arms. Before he seats this one all the way, he's going to check that solenoid, make sure that it's pivoting. But like I said, if you don't anchor this thing solidly down, it is not going to move. It's not going to release properly. It's not. Okay, getting the electrical tie wraps out. Okay, it's usually best to always put the attach the tip first. Okay, and then you want to stretch the net on down a bit towards the collet area. Stretch the net down and put that second electrical tie wrap in. Okay, we've got the center at this point we're going to attach the outrigger line. This is designed to keep the front edge of the net under tension as it pivots, and it's already attached permanently to the tip of the pole. We have a cord lock on it, and you're going to stretch it on out. You want quite a bit of tension, and especially on this particular pole, because it is going to be actually pivoting a 40-foot net. You pull it and hook it into the eye bolt on the outrigger. Okay, at this point we've attached the outrigger to the far, the left-hand side pivot pole. You have to have the thing fully attached before you can tighten up and come back on over to the right-hand side. Crud. Side pole. And the guy line with the elastic cord in it. The cord lock allows you to adjust the tension in it. It's stretched on out. And once again put into the eye bolt. Okay, at this point you can usually go to the front edge of the net in the center, lift it on up about 3 feet or so in the air, feel the tension in it. This is going to be a matter of personal preference, but you want it fairly snug, and then drop it. Okay, that should be really pretty much in a straight line. If by some chance you have problems with the net poles wanting to collapse in on themselves, you probably got a little bit too much tension in the outrigger. Okay, at this point it's probably a good idea to put on your safety goggles. That's why we provide them, okay? And we have one person on either side of the net. You're going to grip the pole at the pivot, above the pivot and at the reinforcing sleeve. Do not stand out at the end of the pole and attempt, okay, to lift the pole. You will probably break it. It is not designed for that level of force. And you then insert the safety pin in with the lanyard out at right angles to the net. Okay, at this point, okay, the net is fully armed, And we'll pivot over the other side. This is one of the points. It can be done with one person, especially on a 25 or 40 foot wide net. The other side was cocked at the same time. And we're now gathering the net up. What you're going to do is you're going to gather the net up on top of the lower back cord, and you're going to pile it on up on top of that cord, making sure that the front edge, okay, of the guy line, okay, or the front edge of the net line is not fouled in any way, shape, or form. What you basically do is just gather until it's in a pile. You need to work your way back and forth. What you're attempting to do is set up a minimum resistance situation. You need to make sure that no part of the net is fouled with vines or anything else. If it does, okay, you can expect the net possibly to stop short, and you don't want that to happen. You want to get a totally smooth pivot, okay, and totally smooth release when you're doing it. And this will take, if it's done right, it should take 5, even 6 minutes, okay. Just as a point, if you get a lot of grass in the net, and this one does have some previous grass in it, if you can clean that all out and lighten the net up, so much the better. But however, dry grass is obviously not very heavy.
Right on top of it. It's supposed to all come back.
What you're doing is you're, of course, trying to open that area up so that you have a maximum area for baiting, okay, into the area. You want all of that net into a little stack, maybe 6 by 6 inches. The standard nets are a woven mesh, okay. If you're working in really wet areas, we of course can supply nets that are made out of monofilament so that they do not absorb any water. But you want to work your way from side to side, okay, gathering the net in until it's all in one smooth stack. Okay, we have this section of net right here, as you can see, is pretty well gathered. Got a little bit more in the corner to tuck over, but this is a nice, neat stack underneath the upline. Now we're going to start pulling it back into the corner. Again, the more carefully this is done, the better the net release will be. Faster, easier, cleaner, much more likely to catch your subjects. That's right, you want to gather it out into the corner. Okay, when the net's completely done, as you can see, that top edge right there, the front edge of the net with the Dacron cord in it, is floating easily on top of the stack. Okay, at this point, we're going to put one of the danger signs, okay, outboard, so anyone approaching the net okay, you're supplied with signs that say this equipment operates remote control or danger, keep away. And traditionally, you're going to put it on down by the mechanism, okay, so somebody who sees this thing laying attractively on the ground is not going to go over and put their head over it. Okay, at this point, we're going to get ready to arm this net. It's really important, okay, that you have the safety pins in, and you're lifting, okay, the elastic cord up into the lofting pins. If you have difficulty doing this, you can bend the pins over a bit. Make absolutely certain, however, that the safety lanyard and pin are installed properly. This net is now armed. We recommend you don't leave it this way for any more than 12 to 14 hours at a time, because it can cause some deterioration in the elastic cord. If necessary, you could go to 24. It is, however, very important that you remember that this system is not designed for temperatures much below about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and preferably above 50, okay, to allow the elastic cords to develop their full force. The system is now armed, okay, and there's approximately 70 pounds worth of upwards force available to flip this pole up and into position. Goggles, you're looking at one of the elastic cords. The second one, if you've got a following wind, but you can bend those pins over. They're made out of Lexan polycarbonate. They'll take that kind of a bend. The closer they are to vertical, the more force you'll generate, but what this does is give the initial kick upwards, okay, to flip the net and start it on its journey as it flips up beyond the horizontal. When the net is simply cocked, okay, you can fire the release and it'll just sit there even without the safety pins. That's not to say you shouldn't put them in, but the point is that all of the forces are longitudinal. Once you lift it up into the lofting pins, you're generating a vertical force, and that is the device, that is the function of the device to actually flip the net into closed position. Okay, we're going to move on back here and fire this net. Okay, the system is cocked, the system is armed. We have the safety lanyards at this point. You pull the safety lanyards on out from either side, and you can just drop them on the ground because you want to put it back in if you have to, unless it's going to frighten the animals, and then head away from the net. We're ready at this point. We'll do a quick, at this point we're ready to start a short countdown. Okay, let's go over our checklist. Okay, both of the radio receiver releases are turned on. The solenoids are moving freely. The safety lanyards have been removed. Your batteries are fully charged. The system has been cocked and armed. The safety lanyards have been removed. So this should be ready to go. Make sure you got fresh batteries in your radio transmitter for the system. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. And that's a QNet system. You'll see that okay, we're gonna demonstrate the cocking and the arming of the net from a distance. Okay, fellas, go ahead. Grab the pole. Okay, there at the reinforcing sleeve. Bring it back on over. Try and do both sides if you can at the same time. With an extra wide net like this, it's not critical one person can do both, but if you've got a very narrow net like 12 feet wide, it's not a good idea. You've got both of the arms are now cocked. Okay, you put the safety pins in, and now they're going to head back over to the back edge of the net to gather it on up. Be absolutely certainly not to try this unless, like I said, the safety pins are in. Left-hand side of the net's now armed, and Stoney's going to arm the right-hand side of the net. One of the things you can do if you have trouble, you put your foot on the platform, okay? So then get right over it. Use your knees. Try not to use your back. Okay, there's your armed QNet. Okay, we're getting ready to pull. You can see the safety lanyard in place. Okay, fellas, pull out the safety lanyards. Okay, quick checklist on this. This 16 by 40 QNet. Batteries are charged. Okay, solenoids are moving freely. Fresh battery in the transmitter system. Okay, we're going to give this a short count. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. And that's the QNet system. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. That should do it.